It's a little better. Which side is the right?
Start Chena. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Dr. Lakshmi Prabha, Professor and Head, Department of Home Science, St. Joseph's College for Women Autonomous. I take this opportunity to welcome all the participants to this two-day webinar on the impact of COVID-19 on lifestyles and quality of life and coping strategies, which is being organized by the Department of Home Science and the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of St. Joseph's College for Women Autonomous, Visakhapatnam. We shall begin the webinar with a prayer. That was our college choir rendering the prayer. Lord needs to really bless us with peace. The world is passing through real tough times, and it is for the first time in the living history of a few hundred years that humanity at large is facing the same threat worldwide. Our fears, concerns, and prayers are same, no matter where and which part of the world we live. We are seeing on a day-to-day basis how the pandemic is impacting people's, their lives, livelihoods, and much, much more. I'm sure this will remain etched in the memory of all who are alive today. Tough times call for tough decisions. We in the education sector have been impacted in a unique way in that our academic schedules have frozen, and we hope to resume from where we have been stalled soon as per the guidelines of UGC and our affiliating university. As per the directions of our Commissionerate of Collegiate Education and under the able guidance of our young and dynamic principal, Dr. Sister Shaiji, we at St. Joseph's College for Women Autonomous Visakhapatnam have been making consistent efforts to put the lockdown period to good use through organizing webinars and conducting e-classes to students. In the series of webinars, our Department of Home Science has chosen this theme in order to cater to two core areas of home science, namely resource management and human development, since a webinar in the third core, namely nutrition, has already been hosted in the month of May. In this webinar, we hope to address the impact of COVID-19 on lifestyles worldwide, on different sectors in the economy, on the quality of life with reference to resource management comprising values, goals, decisions, and management of family and community resources, and finally, understanding the coping strategies. At the outset, I would like to thank all our resource persons, Professor Manisha Shukul, retired head and professor of the Department of Family and Community Sciences, Maharaja Shayaji Rao University, Baroda, Professor V.S. Pramila Bose, retired professor and head Department of Psychology and Parapsychology, Andhra University, Mrs. Suchitra Ella, co-founder and joint managing director, Bharat Biotech International, and Dr. Srinivas Shastri Malladi, a consultant psychiatrist, for having agreed to spare their precious time and address the participants. They're all stalwarts in their areas of expertise, as you will get to understand. And I'm sure we will all have precious takeaways from their sessions. With these words of introduction and welcome, we now move on to the technical sessions. The first session for today is titled Impact of COVID-19 on Lifestyles Worldwide. The resource person for this session is Professor V.S. Pramila, retired professor and head of the Department of Psychology and Parapsychology, Andhra University. I request Ms. P. Sai Sudha, Assistant Professor, Department of Home Science, to introduce our resource person. Over to Sai Sudha.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sai Sudha, Assistant Professor, Department of Home Science, St. Joseph's College. It's my pleasure and pride to introduce alumnus of St. Joseph College for Women, Dr. Professor V.S. Pramila Bose, former head, Department of Psychology and Parapsychology, Andhra. Mrs. V.S. Pramila did her PhD in Psychology of Brains from Andhra University. Professor Pramila has 40 years of teaching and research experience and guided several PhD and MPhil students. Dr. Pramila organized and conducted conferences and seminars at national and international level, and was also the director for Center for Women's Studies and carried out research on a national project on the girl child. She served as UGC coordinator at Andhra University and also participated in a global project on personality. Virginia for a brief period of time. On behalf of management and staff, we welcome Dr. Professor V.S. Pramila Bose. Now I hand over the session to you. Thank you.
No, let's go to the previous page. Okay, I don't need to be seen. Where's my video? Good afternoon from St. Joseph's College. I'm privileged to be speaking to you this afternoon on the COVID-19 impact of lifestyles, quality of life, and coping strategies. From wherever you are, whether in India or anywhere else in the world, welcome, and I hope we'll have a mutually beneficial session. I'm in the unique position of having like one step in the US and one step here in India. I've been stranded, so to say, separated from my family. But it has been an interesting time for me because I get to see what's happening in India when the COVID-19 struck. There was absolute standstill of everything. It looked like life stopped dead in its tracks. And the same thing happened on the other side of the world where the rest of my family are. So as I discuss the lifestyles, the quality of life, and the coping strategies, I'll be having perspectives. I'll be sharing my perspectives of what I'm experiencing here and what the rest of my family are experiencing in the other part of the world. They're all in the US, so it will be exclusively more on that. Okay, so let me begin. As I said, life stopped dead in its tracks the moment COVID-19 struck. It seemed the whole country, the whole nation, the whole world, in fact, had come to a standstill. And we were all confused. We are now actually 3 months into the COVID pandemic. But I think all of you would agree with me that that we have made some kind of adjustment. The advantage of, the characteristic of human beings is that we are able to modify, we're able to adapt, we're able to change. And I'm sure all of us would agree that we are not as scared today as we were maybe in early March, when the news spread all over the world that a pandemic has struck. So I'd like to begin first with the effects. We are talking about the effects of the pandemic on lifestyles. At the outset, let me say that the effect of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, will not be the same or has not been the same for all ages. It differs from age to age, whether it's a man or a woman, a boy or girl, what age in life. So in the first slide that you can see, you will notice I've given pictures of people from the baby's age to the old age. Now, is the effect the same? No, it won't be the same, because age makes an important difference, age, sex. So there are, from the babies to the elderly, you'll find there's a lot of difference in the impact. So let us look at the differences in the impact. The best way we can do it is to look at what are called the generations. Socio-psychologically, the generations, depending upon the age of birth, gives us an idea of what are the typical attitudes. I mean, when you say generation, we are talking about people who have been born more or less at the same time and have grown up together. They have common values, they have common ideas, beliefs, and lifestyles. So what we are saying, when I say that there are different generations, look at the generations, the impact on the generations differs according to the age. So let's quickly look at the generations. You can see on the screen that you have the silent generation, which is supposed to be people who are born between the period of 1925 and 1945, and usually are between the ages of 75 and 95. Oh, at this point, let me just tell you, though I have categorized these as these different generation categories, there could be overlaps, and it could differ from discipline to discipline. So this I just took from the Wikipedia, so that you won't be confused that have a discussion on categorizations. So this is just for our reference point to show that generations make a difference in the way the pandemic has affected us. The baby boomer generation from 1946 to 64 are usually those between the ages of 56 and 70 years. They mostly have had large families. And then the generation X, which is the baby bust, it's the exact opposite. They didn't want so many babies. They have very small families. That's why it's called the baby bust. And then you have categories of younger people who are in the age of 35 to maybe I can say a wide range of 26 to 45. So I've divided them into Zennials, Millennials, Generation Y, and Generation Next. So there could be a lot of overlap. If you look at the years, you'll see 26 to 40 for the Millennials, and then 35 to 45 for Zennials. But this is just a very broad category with no absolute demarcations. Okay, now coming to the next category, which is iGen, or the Gen Z, or Gen Z, as they would say in America, are the 8 to 25-year-olds from childhood, middle childhood, or late child, I would say it's middle childhood, to early adulthood. So these are the young people. And then there's Generation Alpha, who are the newly born or new kids who are equal to or less than 7 years of age. Now, these generations, why I'm talking about this is because the way the pandemic impacts these generations depends upon the age range. The impact on an elderly person will not be the same as the impact on a kid. So that is why I'm looking at it from the point of view of generations. So coming to the behavioral characteristics of these generations, the silent generation, they are usually community-oriented, love communities, they have a strong loyalty to jobs and a sense of personal civic duty. So they feel very, very responsible for the society around them, and that are so community-oriented. I mean, if you look at the older people, the we were talking about the 75 to 95 people, they would talk so much about the community, whereas today's world is very individualistic. The baby boomer generation, these people were agents of social change. There was quite a radical change in society, and mostly after World War II, this has happened. I mean, people who are born after World War II, you would see people, these are the people who brought about a lot of change in our society. They're very non-conformist, they don't conform, they are highly competitive and are also very hardworking. So this is the baby boomer generation. The next generation is the Generation X, the baby bust generation. Now this generation of individuals, when they were growing up, they were called latchkey kids. Why were they called latchkey kids? Because their mothers were working, and the father, of course, and to earn an income, better income. So children used to have to come on their own, open the door for themselves and enter and look after themselves. So because they were latchkey kids, they learned a lot of independence and a lot of self-reliance. So that again is going to, affect the way they react to a pandemic crisis. Then the Zennials, they are this particular group, as I said, if you remember the previous slide, they born in 1975 and to 1985. They are usually 35 to 45 years old. These people are usually narcissistic. By narcissistic, I mean that they are generally, concerned about themselves, but they're quite liberal and receptive to new ways of living. And they're very individualistic and look at the self, look at themselves more and they're less worried about the social roles. The millennials, as I said, the millennials also are very similar to them. So there's no hard boundary between these two categories. And these, we call them millennials, the Generation Y, Generation Next, or iGen, I with a small I, because everything is like an iPhone, I this, I that. They only remember mobile technologies. And they don't remember anything about a time before there was social media. That means from the time they were born, they've been exposed so much to social media. They're very quick to pick up on these mobile technologies and all kinds of social media, which the older people really find it difficult to. And then there is Generation Alpha. We don't know much about their behavioral characteristics because they are right now in the growing stage. So having looked at this, we cannot expect a crisis, a pandemic crisis like the COVID-19 to have the same impact for people, all people from all age, at all age levels in the same way. It's going to have a different impact for different people. So now I'm going to turn my attention to a study in America about how the pandemic has affected them, raised the stress levels. We all agree that our stress has all increased because of the pandemic. But I'm sure you also agree with me that we have sort of settled down. We've learned to adjust. We've learned to cope. We've developed strategies. We've developed ways of thinking, handling situations which were totally new exactly 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. Something we had never experienced. It was like a kind of a shock for us. So I'll first discuss a study that was done in the US on the stress by the American Psychological Association. And as I go along, perhaps I'll touch upon my experiences being in India, and as it were, like holding a pair of binoculars and looking to the West and seeing what my family and the people in the West are undergoing. Is it similar? Is it different? Is mankind the same all over and their reaction to it the same? So that's exactly what I'm planning to do. Okay, so I just turn my attention to the study in America. This is a study done on the spot. On the spot, so I don't say it's a one-day thing. It's done very quickly, organized very quickly for a period from April 24th to May 4th. And this was reported by the American Psychological Association. Now, what are the findings? As you can see on the screen, they found that there was higher stress related to COVID-19, that's obvious, than to general stress. So on a rating, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the highest stress and 0 being the lowest stress, what they found is that the stress related to COVID was like 5.9, whereas stress related to the ordinary common matters was only 5.4. The next interesting finding was that adults without children had less stress. That means they may be parents whose children had grown up and gone off, or they still had not had children. So any adults without children had less stress than those with children. And you can see the values there, 5.5, and which is much, much less than those adults who had children with them. Then there's disruption. The main cause for the stress was the disruption in the lives of children and teens under the age of 18. And this was a very significant cause of stress. Now, whether we are in India or whether in other parts of the world, you will agree with me, disruption was the main thing which caused a lot of panic, a lot of fear, and a lot of uncertainty. And this was more in the lives of those under the age of 18. I mean, adults, grown-up adults, we ourselves felt shaken when this thing happened in our country. But you can imagine how much more it had shaken up the lives of children and teens. The pandemic stress is significantly higher, with higher distress in the 18 to 25-year-olds. That is we call them the Gen Z or the iGen generation, as compared with only 15% of adults had high stress, and only 50 or even less than 15% for senior citizens, which is interesting. That means the effect of the COVID-19 has been much stronger as middle-aged adults or senior adults, or we have not felt it. We know how much we have felt, but the amount of stress that these people in this age range have felt is much, much more than what we have felt. Now let me go on to the next slide and see what are the sources of stress. But before I look into this, why did we all experience that stress when COVID-19 struck, the stress pandemic struck us? The reason for stress is usually related to a sense of lack of control. Suddenly, everything that was known to us, everything that was common to us, everything that we knew about how life goes on was as if the carpet was pulled out under our feet. So it had really, we've had a sense that we are not in control of anything. And not only was it like that, it was a fear of uncertainty. We do not know this enemy, this unknown enemy that has come into our lives. It's affecting everybody. You don't know how it's going to attack us, when it's going to attack us. So there's so much of uncertainty. So a sense of uncertainty, a lack of control has really increased the amount of stress. This fear of the unknown and the uncertainty often leads to panic. And we are not able, panic in any sense of the word. If you remember what happened in March, things flew off, grocery stuff flew off the shelf because people were in a state of panic. They bought everything left, right, and center, and the grocery shelves were empty. In America, people were even taking off toilet paper. I don't know what toilet paper has to do with stress. I mean, the pandemic attacks us, but why should you go for toilet paper? But toilet paper went off the stress. I understand if it is sanitizer. I understand if it is food. That makes sense, but why toilet paper? But that's because the sense of panic. I do not know what the future is going to be like. So so these are things running out of necessities. These are the things that which has brought about that stressful situation. Okay, so looking at this particular chart, I've just categorized the sources of stress into 3 categories. Individual sources of stress, government response, because we live in a country, the government makes certain decisions for us on how to tackle the problem. And then stress from economy and work. One of the important sources of stress, again, this relates especially to young children, teens, those who are studying. Managing, this was 71% of the adults, of the people studied, felt that managing distance and online learning for their children was extremely stressful. If you remember, some of the social media referred to teachers, I mean, mothers sitting beside their children and watching the teacher teach. Imagine how it feels for the teacher when she has a class of 35 or 40 and all the mothers are sitting with their children. This happens in India. It won't happen there in the US. But even there in the US, mothers or the parents or whoever was taking care of the children, 71% of them felt it so stressful to manage the distance and online learning for the children. Accessing food and housing, 70% for parents versus 44% for non-parents. That means the non-parents were not so stressed out about food and housing. Whereas if you had children, you had to think about food and housing. And this is, again, I'm talking about the US. In India, I think we were pretty well placed in that we did not have, I mean, the only persons who really suffered from the lack of food and housing were the migrant workers, to my knowledge. Of course, we can discuss on this as we go on. Then access to health care services, 66% for parents versus 44% for adults who didn't have children at all. So that means they were not able to go to a clinic and get health care. Or in India, it was like they were turned away by the hospitals, saying let us say a pregnant woman came, she was not taken care of. She said, go somewhere else. In fact, I've been reading the other day how a woman had to go for 6.5 hours in an ambulance, but in the end, she died delivering her baby, died in the ambulance. So, I mean, there are differences in the way the world over they have access to healthcare services. Then the other very, very tragic, stressful event was missing major life events. Weddings, birthdays, births and deaths. I know of people, wife is in India, husband is in America, husband dies, wife cannot go for the funeral, she's stuck here. And children abroad, parents here, children cannot come into India to attend their parents' funeral, the parents' funeral. This is the situation. This was 63% for parents compared to those who are non-parents. Okay, so let's go to the next thing about the government response. 70% of adults found the government response to the pandemic as a source of stress. That is, what is the government going to do? How is it going to handle the situation? This was in the minds of people, and this the perception of what the government is going to do or it's not doing in handling the pandemic situation was a source of stress. Then looking at, and this approach, I mean, this perception of the government's role was irrespective of party lines, whether you belong to the ruling party or whether you are not, whether you're in the opposition. It didn't make a difference, but they were all stressed out because of the government reaction. And it didn't also matter which part of the country you are in, whether north, south, east, or west, it was the same. And the third aspect is economy and work. Of course, that is very obvious and clear wherever in the world it was. There's a loss of jobs, there's a loss of income, and many families have no savings, especially the poorer people, the lower income people, not much savings to go on. And in generally, this economy, all the businesses stopped. I mean, organized sector better, but the unorganized sector was chaotic. For them, the carpet was pulled out from under their feet, literally. So I'm sorry, I think I have just skipped, yeah. This was size, so 70% versus 46% in 2019. This is, I mean, loss of jobs, income, savings, and general economy is over these 2 years, 2019, 2020, you can see the stress level was much higher, 70%. And another very interesting finding, I don't know if something like this would be true in India, but people of color reported more stress. So the Hispanics, those who come from South America, they had 41% stress, whereas whites or the blacks and the Native Americans were more or less the same. And interestingly, the Asians had the least amount of stress. Sounds very good, but I don't know what the reason for that is. Then frontline health workers, healthcare workers experienced trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. We have heard of nurses who have fled from the hospital or have taken leave, and in the beginning, this was in March when the first, when the thing started in a very radical way. They applied leave and stayed, or some doctors just did not want to take up the responsibility for them. And then not only it's not the fear of it, seeing people die right in front of their eyes. They came in walked in perhaps into the hospital, but within a few days, they were dead. And the number of dead people, one after the other, causes trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. So these are some of the typical causes, but there are other factors which also cause the stress. Say, for example, our attitudes and beliefs, especially the negative stereotypes held by children and young adults with regard to older people, is an important factor. Stereotypes such as this, like perceiving old people as they should be sidelined, they're useless, they're not helpful, and they cause us more problem, have adverse consequences. It sends the message of older people as frail and vulnerable. That's why you have these, find the statement, stay at home and protect your grandmother. That's one factor. Another one is the quarantine factor. The being asked to quarantine yourself or being quarantined by the government was also an important factor in causing stress. It affects young and old alike. It undermines the nation's mental health. Overall, why? Because we're all caged. Never before have we been asked not to step out of our house. We've been in the home, we're like imprisoned. And this can lead to effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. It can lead to confusion. It can lead to anger and depression. I remember one of the earliest news in March when somebody from abroad had come and was asked to be quarantined. He jumped from the hotel 2 floors or 3 floors. I mean, that was just the first day for him, but it led to so much depression that he just jumped off from the 2nd floor or 3rd floor of that hotel. And to add to all of this is the drumbeat of media about quarantining, which can increase the anxiety and stress. Then there's domestic violence and abuse, which is hardly noticed, but I'm so glad to say that people are noticing this now. This is what is happening at home. because the home is not a place of refuge for some of these people. Their being under lockdown increases stress because abuse and violence increases. Many women and children are trapped with an abuser. Loss of loved ones and not being able to say bye, because those people who are in hospital, they're isolated, cannot say bye, they cannot meet their family. And the consequent grief is also extremely stressful. Many elderly people have died alone in the hospital without the family beside them. Now, if quarantine on the one hand created stress, the relaxation of quarantine also has created stress. Now, some of the people who are so afraid of getting the virus, of being near other individuals, makes them feel very uncomfortable. So they avoid going to retail stores or avoid going to eating out. So the whole thing, whether it's quarantine or no quarantine, is really stressful. Okay, we're coming down to the last slide now. What are the signs of stress? Most, if you look in your family and you see them depressed, depressed does not necessarily always meaning sad. They may just withdraw from the rest of the family, just be by themselves, prefer being isolated, spending a lot of time thinking, and not doing any activities that are normal, that they normally did. You can think that is an indication of depression. Anxiety and suicidal ideation. Suicidal ideation, it's only in the mind. They don't share that with anybody. And then when they feel it's too stressed out, they attempt suicide. So how do we cope with stress? I think there is no one way in which we can cope stress. There are many ways in which we can cope with stress, and each person must find out what method best suits him or her. The important thing is to be engaged in activities. Engage. And that is not following just what somebody says. You take an initiative in doing what is to be done. And it can be any activity. We've seen that on the internet, there's a whole slew of baking activities, cooking activities, easy way to do this, easy way to do that, try it, nice snacks, all these things. So that's of course one activity, but there are other things you can do. I know storytelling has been also a very interesting activity that is taken up by many. And then playing with the family, certain family games. We all used to do that in my generation. We had a lot of family related games, but we don't have now anymore because we're in the Gen X kind of environment. I'm sorry, what is it? The iGen generation, Gen Z, where they just spend their time doing things individually. They have the earphones on and they just looking at their mobile phones and click, 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 click. That's what they're doing. They don't look to the right, to the left, to the front, what's going on around. They're all engaged with themselves. But this has been a time when bridges and relationships have been mended and actually activated. And people are realizing how nice it is to develop these relationships. The important thing is you have to establish control over yourself. That means you decide what activities, but you'll have to do something. You'll have to engage in it, not be a passive viewer of activities, and reach out and make connections with other people. It could be children, it could be pets, it could be other adults, it can be, anything, but try to make connections. A smile, a brief talk, something that we all used to do once upon a time. At least the older people will agree with me. So these are some of the things, and do things that are coherent with your lifestyle. You have an environment, you have a typical environment in which you live. You may be elderly, you may be middle-aged, you may be young, but according to that lifestyle, go ahead and do activities that are coherent. They should fit in with that lifestyle. So I'm not asking and suggesting in any way that an elderly person start doing jogging all of a sudden like the iGen generation does. That's what I'm saying. Do it coherent with your lifestyle. And I think with this, I've just given a brief thing, and I'm ready to take your questions if you have any. I think I need some help with this. Where are the hands questions? Okay. Do we have any questions? How do I question? I don't see any questions.
I think the session has been so
Do we have
very
any questions?
interesting, madam, that all the chat box is full of appreciation, and people are saying, madam, it has been so clear. You've explained very well, and it's highly relevant. So the participants are all generally, it appears that they are all very happy with your session, and you have touched upon all the aspects of life, how it has been impacted by COVID. But what tips would you give, madam, on behalf of the participants? I would just like to ask you, what tips would you suggest to a person working from home to tackle, to be able to cope up with the present day stress? Some simple tips which they can follow, if you could suggest.
Well, what happens now with the lockdown and all the families staying at home? Of course, now it's eased a bit in India. I don't know how it is, and it differs in the West in different states. Speaking about that, the mother, the woman who works from home, burdened with the continuous presence of what happens now with the lockdown and pardon? Was that somebody? No, okay. What I was saying is, the mother of the house, I'm just using the word mother because that is the easiest way for me to convey my idea. She is now doubly burdened. If she was somebody working from the house before the pandemic struck, and now the whole family is at home, so they expect her to do provide snacks all the time, to spend time with her, and so on. It's going to be very difficult. What she needs to do then is to talk to the children, and I've talked to the family, in fact, including the husband, and say, for these number of hours, I have to be left alone. Maybe shut a door if you can shut the door, because it's going to be very difficult. Houses are not necessarily big. They may be working from very small houses. But one section, the children should be told, this section, I'm going to be busy. You should not make a noise. Maybe initially she can treat them for not making noises or not disturbing, because we've seen these sessions, where a mother is working or she's in a conference with her boss and the children are running around behind. So that would give a very bad impression. So she needs to educate the children, perhaps take her husband's help also in controlling the children and diverting them with some other activity for those few hours. Because if she doesn't earn that income, that's also going to affect the family's income. So that you'll have to think of methods like that, and reinforcing them for being silent, for being quiet, for not disturbing her in those hours. Maybe a nice extra story. Always, it need not be money. It need not be chocolates or food. It could be some kind of reinforcement, like telling a story or watching a particular movie. Well, if you're all good today and don't disturb me while I'm at work, we'll see this movie on the screen, something like that, especially if they are small children. Older children, they can understand. Yeah, so we'll have to work our own way out. Thank you. Any other questions? Oh yeah, there are 16 participants whose hands are raised. Let me see, who are they? I don't see them here.
They want you to explain the first slide, madam. The first slide that you had in your presentation.
Okay.
Participant Sonia wants the first slide to be explained again. Maybe she joined late or...
This one, is it this one? I have not maximized it. 1 minute, and I have to say, is it visible? No.
No, madam, the slide is not visible still.
I need to...
The one, I think, after the different age groups which you showed, the slide following that immediately.
Which is the first slide? Is it visible? Not this one? Okay. Is this the one? Is this the one that she was referring? This is the first slide.
I think the next one, madam. The next one.
Is this
yes,
one?
I think this one, yes. Maybe this one.
Okay. All right. What I was saying is that because people born at a similar time have similar values, similar attitudes, similar ways of looking at life, social psychologists have categorized, and I think even developmental psychologists have categorized the society into different categories depending upon their age, I mean, the years. So, for example, the silent generation, people born in the 1925s up to 1945, they are usually in this range. So they have similar attitudes, similar values, similar ways, similar ways of behaving, and so on and so forth. So how it has impacted them will be different from, let us say, I'm looking at this generation, I generation, or the millennials, those who have been born 1995 to 2012. They're between the ages of 8 years and 25 years. Their attitude to life is different. You will agree with me that their attitude to life will be so much different from those in this or this age range. So what I'm saying is, to say that the effect of the pandemic has been uniform is not right. It depends on the age group of what is called the generation name of the person. I hope I clarified that point. I'm just not able to see the hands raised. How do I see that?
Madam, Gayatri raises the question, in this period of pandemic, how can we keep negativity at bay? How do we deal with negativity?
Yeah. It's natural to feel negative about the whole thing. It's a natural reaction. Now, the problem is how to keep it at bay. You know, the negativity starts with the thinking process. When you start thinking, this situation is hopeless, it's dangerous, I do not know what my future is going to be. You know, these kinds, it all starts, there can be different types of negative thoughts. What more meaning is there in life? It will start here. The thing is, once you realize suddenly, when you analyze your thoughts, when you start looking at it and say, why am I thinking all these negative thoughts? You immediately put a stop to it. It can be done by you if you are doing it in the initial stages. If you don't do it in the initial stages, negativity increases, and it leads to depression. So the moment you realize that you're starting to think negative, What you need to do is to stop in your tracks and say, I should not look at this situation negatively. Let me think in what way this situation has something positive and how I can get out of this situation. So it's a conscious effort of your mind. It's a conscious effort. Nobody can do anything for you, but if you allow that negative thing to continue in the mind, it will just grow. It will just grow and become bigger and bigger and bigger and take over your life. It will take control over you. But you, when you realize that the negative thoughts are coming in your mind, you are still in a position of being aware. You are conscious, you are aware. That means you are in a position to take control. So at that time you say, all right, I realize these negative thoughts, but no, I'm not going to allow this. It is true. It is a bleak situation. It is a terrible situation, but I'm going to deal it with, look at it, what is positive. And it's an effort, a difficult effort, but it will pay its dividends. So once you turn your attitude from negativity to positivity, you will start making the turn. And soon you will find that you will be able to make the best advantage of the situation. So many people have suddenly discovered activities, their particular skills. Some have, discovered that they have this altruistic behavior, which is like, liking to do something positive. The other day, I'm speaking about Vizag, Visakhapatnam. One of the early things that I read was two sisters, and they are not from middle-class families also, they're from low-class families. They realized that they can do something to help the people who have been affected, the more disadvantaged. They started making food and delivering, giving it to, at the Dwarkanagar bus stand, giving it to things. I mean, it's just, what can I do? How can I deal with the situation? Not saying, not allowing, oh, the situation is terrible. There's nothing more that I can do. I mean, it's just that way of looking at things. I hope that will give some insight. It's a conscious effort. Any other questions?
An anonymous participant wants to know how to deal with suicidal thoughts because of social isolation, madam.
Suicidal ideation.
Yes.
Definitely the person just needs to seek some medical help. Medical help means not an ordinary doctor, see a psychiatrist, because they will give the appropriate medication to start off with. I mean, you need an initial medication and then going to see a counselor. It cannot be done by the person himself, but he realizes, I feel like, committing suicide. I feel like hanging myself. I feel like jumping off a wall, or I feel like cutting myself and just die. When they have that ideation, they cannot really help themselves. They need some medication to make a difference in the brain. Initially, they need it for a few days. After that, seeking counseling help will be the answer to the problem. So he cannot help himself.
How to deal with the children, madam, during the pandemic lockdown? How do we deal with children? Disciplining children, handling them. Many participants have asked that question, madam. Obviously, that seems to be the major problem for parents.
What's happened is now that children go to school or are in the school or at tuitions most of the day, parents have lost the art of disciplining their children. They do not know how to handle the children, and they've expected the teachers or wherever they go for classes or anything, it will be taught to them. So, I mean, in the olden days, let me just say this. Our parents or the grandparents had several children, 8 or 9 children, but their children grew up to be beautiful persons, disciplined persons, respectful persons. That was because there was a lady at home and they stayed a lot of the time at home. So the parents played an important role. So it is now the mothers suddenly find themselves, the children at home don't know how to handle them. Important thing is no two children are alike in the family. So the same method will not work for everybody. Number two, I mean, that's too much to explain in a short video, like in a short webinar like this. Father and mother must agree on how they're going to bring up the child, what they want their child not to develop, like some children scream all the time, yelling all the time. So they have to learn. They both have to come to an agreement. That's the first important thing, because if they find a difference between the parents, they take advantage of it. Second thing is there must be punishment for bad behavior. Punishment need not necessarily be beating, but withdrawal of benefits. Whatever, if they're getting a chance, getting a toy which they like, because they will say they have to be told, if you are going to behave this way, you will not get it. So the system of benefits, rewards, and punishments should be included, which are, in the olden days, it was always the stick that was used, but not, we don't need to use that. I mean, I'm not suggesting that is the way to do it, but using a system of rewards and benefits, and then mutual agreement within the parents. Children are very smart. They know whom to play, where they want to get the things. I mean, that's the initial 2 points that I can think of right now, but there are plenty more. But the parents have to take responsibility.
There is an interesting question, madam. One Mr. Lazarus wants to know why Asians, the reason for less color in Asians, is it because they use more spices? He wants to know.
I don't know, that's something to do with nutrition, I think, not with the psychology.
Or is it to do with the genes, or is it to do with spices? He wanted to know.
I wouldn't know. Maybe somebody from the nutrition department could.
We all have to wonder aloud then.
Yeah.
Dr. Chitra wants to know, madam, how to deal with mood swings in women, especially when there are hormonal variations during the cycle, menstrual cycle, and so on. How to deal with the mood swings?
Well, it's natural that there will be mood swings, but if they're too wide, then perhaps you can take some medical help for that. But really, I mean, it's part of the package. Unless it's too severe. Unless it's too severe. In which case, you can always take some medicines for that. And that, of course, perhaps a gynecologist would be able to.
And participants also are interested to know what would be the effect of gadgets on the lifestyle of children, madam, post-COVID. Because now for children also, schools are all insisting that they have to have smartphones. They should listen to online lessons and all that. And we generally keep saying that too much of screen time is not good for children. For their mental development, cognitive development, and also physiologically for the eyes. But now education is all gone back to the screen. So what would the impact be post-COVID? Quite a few participants have posted that question, madam.
I mean, at this point, yes, it's a very valid question, a very relevant question, and a question which, given all the negative effects of relying on gadgets, that's very relevant. And I really don't know how it's going to shape out. We can only wait after the pandemic gets over, and I know for sure we're going to have continue to have a lot of gadget technology education, but it's wait to be seen. We cannot predict at this time.
Yes, that's true. And one participant wants to know, madam, Ishwar Shri wants to know how to deal with wife during pandemic.
Wife?
How to deal with wife, W-I-F-E, wife. How to deal with his wife, obviously.
How to deal with that, I really don't know. The question is not clear enough to me.
So I think maybe when he saw the how to deal with children in the question and answer box, maybe he was prompted to ask how to deal with wife.
Dealing with children is different, but dealing
Different.
with wife,
Yes,
yeah.
I wanted you to say that.
Husband and wife
Yes.
are the same. They together make a team.
Yes, they're equals. They're equals in the team.
Yes, they're equals in the team.
So they need to arrive at an equation. Yes, as to how to deal with one another, and then to deal with children if they have any. Now,
Yes.
if he's not sure how to handle or how to deal with wife, then maybe it's good to wait for the children. They need to arrive at an understanding regarding this first, how to deal with one another. Yes. So the audience are all praise, madam. The chat box is full of praise. It's a very informative session. They've all enjoyed the session. Quite a few of them want the PPT. Participants, we will share the PPT once the sessions are over. Madam has shared the PPT with the host institution. We will share the PPT once the sessions are all over. The participants are also asking about feedback. The feedback will be shared tomorrow, not today. After all the 4 sessions are over, then you will fill the feedback form. Thank you very much, madam. That was a very, very informative session. I'm very happy on behalf of St. Joseph's College for Women and IQAC. I would like to extend our very warm thanks and gratitude to Dr. V.S. Pramila, Professor V.S. Pramila, who has agreed readily to be with us. As madam has said at the beginning of her session, actually she herself is very badly impacted by COVID, because she got stuck when she came to India. Her whole family is abroad and she was really running around to make the travel arrangements. In the midst of all that, she agreed to share her time and expertise with all of us. We are very thankful to you, madam. Thank you very much. It has been a very informative and a very eye-opening session, because you have shed light on stress, lifestyles, stages of life, and how to cope with them, and you have shared some research findings also. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Enjoyed being with you all.
Thank you. So that was a very interesting session, the opening session for our 2-day webinar on the impact of COVID-19 on lifestyles worldwide. So madam has given us a perspective of how COVID has impacted us all over the world. Now we are moving on to the second session for today. The topic for the session is impact of COVID-19 on quality of life. Quality of life, as all home scientists would be aware, is a very important concept in the field of family resource management. To address this topic, we have as a resource person, Professor Manisha Shukul, retired professor and head, Department of Family and Community Sciences, the Maharaja Sayajirao University, Baroda. I call upon Mrs. P. Alekhya, Assistant Professor, Department of Home Science, to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alekhya, Assistant Professor, Department of Home Science, St. Joseph College for Women. It's my great privilege to introduce Dr. Manisha Shukul, retired professor and former head Department of Family and Community Resource Management, the Maharaja Shayajirao University of Baroda. Manisha ma'am did her PhD in home management from the MSU of Baroda and has 33 years of teaching and 25 years of research experience. Dr. Manisha Shukul held various community outreach programs from past 25 years. Ma'am has published several papers and served as co-author and author for 15 journals, out of which 5 are international level. She was a director and co-director for various national seminars and training programs. Dr. Manisha received Manigauri Kantawala Scholarship for Master Studies for securing first rank in home management major. She is a member of peer team She is a member of peer team of NAT examiner paper setter at UGC NET SLET examiner of PhD thesis at other universities. Manisha ma'am served as president of Association of Home Management Alumni. She is a life member of HSAI SOCLEEN. Ma'am done several research projects. Some of them are investment in human capital, safety against household accidents, green consumerism. Thank you for this opportunity. I hand over to Manisha ma'am.
Manisha ma'am, unmute yourself and please start the session. Yes. Madam, Madam, you are not audible. Manisha ma'am, you have to unmute on the screen. You need to, I think, maybe position the mic properly. Your voice is not audible. No, no, not yet, not yet. Just check the connection once, madam. You are not audible.
Audible now?
Yes, yes, madam. Now it's audible. Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, madam. Yes, you're audible
Okay. Okay. Then a very good afternoon to everyone. You have just heard a very nice session by the speaker. I'm really thankful to the organizers to give me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I'm from the field of family resource management, and I would be talking mainly on the resource management side as to how COVID has and the resultant lockdown has affected our resource management, family resource management, and which has led to the changes in lifestyle and ultimately to the quality of life. Let me share my slides with you. So this is what I'm going to talk about. Now we know that due to Corona, a great change has come not only in world, but all the systems, each and every system, may it be a large or the small, the family system. And family has been affected the most. Since the family has been affected, all the other systems have been affected. The economic system, political system, educational system, and each and every, you name them, and everything is affected. Basically, the resources which are accruing to the family, they are available and they use through the process of management that determines the lifestyle and ultimately the quality of life. I have tried to put this in a modular form, the relationship between the three. The resources, it can be human resource, non-human resource, community and environmental resources. Lifestyle, we know we use these terms, lifestyle and quality of life, very loosely, very frequently. I don't think there is there is a need to explain, but still I would like to say that lifestyle is someone's way of living, the things that a person or a particular group of people usually do. And the quality of life, there are several parameters of quality of life. To name a few: physical health, family, education, employment, wealth, safety, security, religious belief, and the environment. Now, I'm going to analyze the effect of COVID and the lockdown, keeping in mind the reference group, middle income group families of urban area. Hindi is a language which everyone can understand thanks to television. So I can take liberty to say certain things in Hindi as well. I'm impressed by one of the messages which I had received, and I think I can share that in Hindi. कृष्ण की ओर देखकर कोरोना वायरस ने कहा, हे कृष्ण, देखो मैं कितना सूक्ष्म हूं, फिर भी मैंने आपके मंदिर के द्वारों को बंद करवा दिया। कृष्ण मंद मंद मुस्कुराए और बोले, तुमने गौर नहीं किया, मैंने हर घर को मंदिर में परिवर्तित कर दिया। And it is true for each and every religion that all the places of religious worship were closed, but everybody started worshipping at one's own home. This is the way of looking at the effect of corona. Definitely, it has a negative effect to a great extent, but I have tried to analyze the positive aspect also. Let me start with the resources which are coming to the family. Money income is the first and foremost very important resource. The effect of corona had, very bad implication for the economy and the money resource. Many of the people did not get money, their salary, the manufacturing units had to be closed, and many had to depend on their savings, and even it was difficult to get money for their daily needs. It was a really very hard time. But we see positive aspect of it also. This condition is, this cartoon is showing, this picture is showing the hardship of the wage earners, which has been very well known throughout the world. But the positive aspect I would point out from that is that people learn to use money carefully. They learn to save the money for the rainy day. Whenever emergency would come, only those savings will give you the helping hand when it is necessary. People also realize the value of buying the things in bulk. Bulk buying is now rather stopped. I mean, I have seen many of the houses used to purchase and still are purchasing. The supply of all the grains, pulses, legumes, and then even the jaggery and sugar and oil, everything is being purchased for the entire of the year. If not entire of the year, maybe for 3 months or 4 months. But they do buy in bulk. Of course, there are two things. One is that if they have the place to keep the supply in bulk, and they have the financial convenience to buy in bulk. But if you buy in bulk, it has added, what should I say, advantage of having some price discount also. Those who had this kind of a facility at home, they were rather at ease that they did not have to bother about getting the things from the outside and all. So it has given us a lesson that try to buy some much in bulk, not hoard, but buy. People have learned to use Paytm, credit card, because cash transaction was rather risky. And people have also realized that luxury purchases can be avoided for quite some time. We are doing very well without those luxury purchases or doing shopping unnecessarily. So these are the positive aspects which I have tried to see. The another very important resource coming to the family is the time and activity pattern, the time and energy, I should say, but the time and activity pattern of the people have changed, all the family members. Let me begin by talking about the homemaker. She had great challenges. Her demand suddenly increased. She had no hired help and any other help. If she was working, she was supposed to work from home also. So that was again a added responsibility. The household responsibility was very much. She had to prepare healthy food, take care of health and sanitation. She was supposed to wash and clothes and utensils and cleaning of the house and whatnot. And the supplies which were brought from outside, they were to be cleaned properly for sanitization. And throughout the day, they were supposed to fulfill the demands of children and all the family members. It is very, very hectic. At many places, still the hired helps are not coming. At some places, they are coming. Rather, I mean, it's rather risky that hired help is allowed to come inside the home and see. I mean, they would be carrying, or we are not sure of their sanitation and hygiene. But the positive aspect, if I see of that, members realized her work. I would like to quote one example of one of the known person. She was talking on phone to me, and she belongs to a town. She also goes to the office, and her daughter also goes to the school. Since she is working, her daughter goes for a quite long time to the school. During the during the lockdown, the mother worked for all the things, and she used the washing machine also. Her daughter, who is 12 years or 13 years of age, she was surprised to see, Mama, you know how to use washing machine? I did not know that you can use the washing machine. You have the capacity to use it. And Mama had very mixed reactions. She was angry also, she was surprised also, she was laughing also, and she was thankful to lockdown also, that this made her daughter realize that what all work her mother does. Family helped in various work. Family members did realize that what load the homemaker is carrying, and they really tried to help her. Because of the demand of the family members, basically children, they could not go to McD or Pizza Hut or anything. So they wanted some kind of different food. So she learned various recipes, and YouTube and friends and everybody really helped. And she really learned new recipes. She enhanced her management skills and she strengthened her culinary skills. Here are some pictures which I would like to share how family helped, and she learned new recipes and prepared them, and family members are helping her. Another great change of time and activity pattern was for the children. Now, children, they did not go to the school. Many of the schools did give them the online homework and all. But ultimately, children spent more time on watching TV. They lacked outdoor games. So the use of mobile was also there. Mobile has lots of games. They demanded food and things to play, and they expected their father or family members to play with them if the children were small. And of course, they made noise and mischief. This is the impact on children. Children had their online classes, which kept them busy for quite some time. But later on, schools also had some vacation. They played indoor games because they could not play outside. The positive impact which has been observed on children, they helped in household work, they learned some cooking also, and this is one great change which has been observed, that kitchen is not a prohibited area for men and children. They watch uh, religious serials also, which they could not watch earlier because this was telecasted very nicely by the channels. And then they did yoga and exercises at home. The male members, they were also very greatly affected because they were supposed to work from home. Their work timings were not at all fixed. They were on phone talking with all colleagues and all for the long period of time. They like to have tea and food on their work table. They lacked exercises. They were worried for health and safety of the family members. They were worried for the flow of source of resources. And all these things made them very irritated. But the positive point I would like to see from that also, the family spent time together. They could play together online games. They made video. The fathers were able to play and interact with children, which they always wanted to, but could not. The children also wanted to spend much time with the father, but they could not because of the office timings. So this was an opportunity to spend the time with children. The husband and wife were also able to spend quality time with each other. So this is the positive aspect which I would see. Now, if the family has elder members, then they also had a challenging time. Generally, they used to go for a walk or nearby, for taking care of the health. But now also they were cautious were given that, elder people have to be very careful about their health. So how did they spend time, or what is the positive aspect? They watched religious programs on television, spent more time in prayers or reading religious books. They spent time in relaxing. They helped in household work also as far as possible, realizing that how much the young lady is spending time in various things, but wherever was things were possible, they helped. And then they spent more time with the family members because they always thought that family is busy with the work and they are left alone. They would like to interact more with the family. And this was the time which they really enjoyed being with the family. They also played games, the indoor games and then the video games and online games also they played. Space in the house, that is a resource that also faced a challenge because everybody was confined to the house and all the activities were done in the house only. So they wanted to play, study, do craft work, and children wanted to do mischief, play indoor games, and women wanted to have space for, cleaning the things and all, and preparing and running around here and there. So that was a chaos and then fight. I should say, confusion for the space. The older members wanted some peace of mind and peace because children are at home, they are making noises, but they wanted some peace. But this also gave a positive aspect. They learned to share space and keep it organized because everybody realized that this is the only place we have to live here, we have to be organized, and we have to be together. Other aspects also, other important aspects also are there. I would say these are the major concepts, but major components of the family's resource management. The values. Values were changing. The family had to see, realize, analyze that which values should be given importance. The values held by the family members change. Generally, change in the value is not easily observed. But here, in this period of time, the change in the values was observed. Respect and love family members, give time to family, take care of the health. All these values came up, they were highlighted. Eating healthy food, do exercise, can do without food from outside, buy indigenous products which are Swadeshi, and conserve resources and share responsibilities. These are the values which were really highlighted during this period. The goals did change. They may not be permanent change, but yes, for the short term goals, they were changed. The challenges were to provide health and safety to each and every family member, education of children, work, earning, how to do the earning, how to get the resources, and those goals for that, and procurement of household goods safely. That was the basic thing, that from where to get, what to get, how to get, and all those questions were there during the lockdown period. The positive impact of this lockdown period is that family members together started working towards the goals. They realized and then they analyzed, and they are working for the achievement of these goals. Another well, I'm able to see this. Standards are the third component, basic component, which are very much important for the family resource management. The standards also were changed. The family had to change its standards to quite a good extent. Family did develop flexible standards. Those which were fixed or rigid standards, they will become flexible. The number of food items, for example, number of food items to be prepared in one meal. Instead of making elaborate meal on the basis of availability of the meal, the number of items to be prepared in meal were decided. Household work, there is another thing, that household work was shared by all the family members. Previously, it might have been that household work is the sole responsibility of the female. But then this also changed. Removing footwear outside. People used to come with the footwear, but because the directives were given that we should remove the footwears outside, people started removing footwears outside and walk in the home barefooted. So that also changed. Standards for health were raised and made before food or for sanitation practice, and they were followed very strictly. So the goals, values, and standards, as we know, they are very much interrelated with each other, which really guide the use of resources in the family. Communication is another important aspect. Um, During this period, lockdown period, there was increased frustration, irritation occurred, there were hot arguments, sometimes unhealthy communication, and conflict resolution became very necessary. Several reasons are there. We can analyze, each family has its own reason. So each family was supposed to or could analyze one's own causes and resolve it. The positive impact, if we see of that, due to the lockdown period, people got time or family members got time to interact and understand each other more. They learned to resolve conflict in a better way. They learned stress management. Older members of the family could communicate more with the family members. And we started greeting again with Namaste. Decision making. We know that decision making is integral process and ongoing process in the management of the resources or throughout any of the management. So the challenge was that all the decisions were reconsidered. Conflicts also increased, and decision making did raise many questions. A consensus on the decisions, several decisions would not have been arrived. So conflict were increased. The positive impact, if we see, decision for health and safety were taken. Members participated in decision making, maybe democratic way in many cases. Autocratic decisions also wherever they were taken, they did exist. Rather, I should say autocratic and democratic did coexist with each other. And methods of conflict, resolving conflict were applied to a greater extent. I saw one of the small video clipping, which I would like to narrate here, that a child was there 4 or 5 years old, and a plate of khichdi was placed in front of him. Many of you might have received, but I think I should quote it here. So, and he was arguing with the father, this is mama's wrong method. She asked, what do you want to eat? But before I could answer, she prepared khichdi. She should have waited. When she asked me the question, she should have given enough time for me to give answer. So the father asked, then why you did not give the answer? I was thinking at that time that what answer should I give? So she should have waited. Why did she prepare khichdi? Now I don't want to eat this. All these tantrums were because he did not like to eat khichdi. But then this says that even the 4 or 5 year child did realize that when mother asked me a question or a decision to be made, she should have waited for my answer to consider my opinion before making the final decision of the menu. Consumption and consumer behavior, this was affected to a great extent because the supplies were less, restricted availability of the goods were there, sanitation and hygiene was to be practiced, healthy food was to be purchased, and cleaning the supplies which are brought from outside, that was added. I mean, but measures had to be observed as to whenever we are getting the things from outside. Consumption of items to provide healthy food to the members was the prime importance. Of course, there were limited resources at times, but the demands were more to be fulfilled. So this was the challenge for consumption and consumer behavior. The positive aspect, I would put it like this, that people realized that one should buy more quantity of items which can be stored. The consumption pattern changed as per the availability of the goods. Whatever was available in the nearby shops, people did buy and prepare the food from that. Payment was done mainly by credit card or Paytm. Those who did not know how to use this, they also learned to use it. But they purchased the goods from the nearby shop instead of malls and supermarkets. Eat food which could be prepared as per the availability. People had to eat food for that. Home delivery system was used for quite some times, or for many of the items. People realized the value of neighborhood shops. They realized the minimum requirement for living, and they also realized shopping is grace. I would say there are some other positive aspects also. They realized the value of health. They practiced sanitation and hygiene very nicely. All these we need to continue for quite some time. They did exercise and practice yoga at home in place of gym. They pursued, many could pursue their hobbies. They could find some time and they could pursue their hobbies. Many prepared many kind of videos and then they shared and then played online games. These are all positive points which a person could not have got time to play and do the things. They understood and appreciated the work of servants or the hired help. Once we realize that how many utensils we are cleaning, the ladies, one person said that ऐसा लगता है जैसे बर्तनों के भी बच्चे हो गए हैं. The population has increased suddenly. The utensils are the same, the amount is the same, but because they had to clean it, they realized that how many utensils they are cleaning throughout the day. Then when the servant or hired help was there, they were just spoiling the utensils, soiling the utensils, and go on accumulating and giving her. But once they had to clean, they realized that how much work the hired help does. They appreciated the health warriors, police administrators, and educators. The teachers who are taking good pains to make the lessons, online lessons, and taking care of the children by giving them work, they are also applauded. And then they realized hard work of the homemaker and appreciated. Somebody said, आओ थाली सजाने वाली के लिए थाली बजाएं. That really is appreciable. That's a way of appreciating the hard work of the woman. I have tried to put this a model, giving one example: input, action, and output. I may skip it and concluded that COVID, the lockdown, has raised challenges to family resource management. It has positive impact as well. The negative were there, but positive also there. Lockdown has not only a torture, but it has become a teacher as well. The lifestyle changed to simple living. The quality of life was affected, but it's family's own judgment whether it has changed or not. We are not able to say. This needs empirical evidences, the studies, and it is very good topic for home scientists to study. I have seen many questionnaires which have come up online studying some or the other aspect and anticipate good research papers in due course of time. I would like to share, if possible, one small video clip.
Yes, madam, please share.
Yeah.
Audio is low, madam.
Audio nahi hai?
Audio,
How do I make it?
It's low. Can you increase the volume of the audio? Yes, play it now, madam. It sounds a little better. Play the audio now, the clip. We are not able to hear, madam. No, your voice also is gone now.
How can I make it audible? Can you just let me know?
Now I can hear you. Are you playing it from the laptop?
Yes, I'm playing from the laptop.
Check the audio settings, madam, on the laptop. The volume button might be there. Na? Try to increase.
Volume I increased. Let me try once again.
Okay. You put it to the maximum and play it, madam.
Should I put my mic near to it?
No. No need, I think. Okay, put your mic near that. Let us try that also. Whichever works. बहुत धीरे से सुनाई दे रहा है मैडम. You're not able to hear properly.
No. Anyway, if you are not able to listen, I can just give the gist. You have observed it, but the people are saying that, It's because of women. They are fulfilling the demands of all the family members throughout the day, and they are working hard. And because of them, this lockdown has been a success. So salute to women power. That is what the video says.
Okay.
I have given the gist of it.
To women folk.
Yes. So I would like to end my presentation by saying that positive thinkers have a solution for every problem. Negative thinkers have a problem for every solution. So we should stay positive and fight with the things. Thanks.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was a very comprehensive presentation. And you have touched upon all the areas of family resource management. I'm extremely happy.
Yeah.
Now, just to ask a few questions which have come from the question and answer box, madam.
Okay, sure.
This period of COVID, what changes you would have observed with reference to the persons taking decisions in the family? Because generally we say that in families it is autocratic and it's the male members who take the decisions. Because we have many research studies also where we say that men generally decide. But now that the man has no chance of going out and discussing with other male members of the extended family, do you see any change with reference to decision-making pattern within the family?
I did discuss this in my presentation that,
Yes.
am I audible now?
Yes, madam. Yes, you're audible.
Okay. I would say that, first of all, whatever I could observe near in my vicinity or neighborhood, and there is no empirical evidence for that, but it is simply based on the observations that men are getting irritated because of they are locked down in the house, but they are using the phone extensively. And I have heard the communication within the friends that kya ho raha hai, kaisa ho raha hai, what are you doing and all, and then this and that. But one change I have observed that they are not taking fully autocratic decisions. The democratic decisions also have taken place in the family. Some or the other places they have the other members also have given the input. They could not escape that kind of a scenario where mothers also could say, the wife also could say, and then the children also could put in their opinion.
This question, madam, even though it's directly not related to family resource management, but as a professor, there was a question as to what do you see as a scenario, future scenario for teaching and learning post-COVID? Because there may not be a direct interaction between the teacher and taught. So what do you see as the change in the education scenario?
I would see two aspects, positive as well as negative. Positive, children are using and the teachers are also using the new technology. But use of new technology also has its positive and negative points. Negative points, the connectivity is affected. At several places, the connectivity is not there. In the rural areas, people do find it very difficult to get it connected, and then internet connectivity is a great problem. Positive point, they are learning a new pedagogy through a new pedagogy. And that is giving them the excitement. Oh, my online lesson has come. As the children are observing the parents to use the laptop, they are also very excited to use this kind of a thing. So this excitement, the change has come in the use of instruments and method of teaching. But yes, it is going to have a different impact as well, that when one-to-one, the teacher and the student interact with each other, the impact is definitely more. We have always heard students saying, Madam ne aisa bola tha, so aisa karna chahiye. Mama is nothing, Madam is everything. That kind of interaction and closeness is going to be affected till they start going to the school. But yes, it is very risky to send them school till the things are normalized. Yes.
Also regarding the consumption patterns, madam, you have mentioned in your presentation that the consumption patterns have changed. They have begun to depend on the local sellers घर के बाजू में जो रहते हैं, so
Yes,
and
nearby shops, huh?
nearby shops and the colony shops are flourishing,
Yeah.
and consumption patterns have changed. So do you foresee that even after the COVID is over, people would still stick to the local sellers, or they may go back to the big and attractive malls and bazaars? What would you foresee?
Uh, I foresee that some of the people who are really crazy to go to malls and big bazaars and all, they would go. They would not bother about their own health and sanitation and safety. I have seen many people going now also, that they are going, but they should be very careful. Actually, this is the time to be very careful, that one should observe the health and sanitation practices. One should avoid going to such places till the government says that it's okay. We all are educated. One should understand what is good for one's own health and family's health. So nearby shops should be given priority or importance till the things are very much normalized. Once we are buying the things from nearby shops, neighborhood shops, they are also getting income. So that also should be realized, that by buying from nearby or neighborhood shops, we are giving them the opportunity to earn. Their houses, or दिया उनके घर में भी जलेगा, चूल्हा उनके घर में भी होगा. So we should give an importance to continue to buy with the neighborhood shops. So for certain things you may go outside, but of course once the things are normalized.
Then one participant wanted to know, madam, how should we clean vegetables? Sabziya kaise dhoye this COVID period to ensure the safety of the family members? How can we take care of the vegetables which we may buy from the local sabzi wala?
People say that local sabji wala se buy karke, once we get it, there are several videos and information. The media is full of it. Several people are saying in different ways कि कोई साबुन, कोई बोलता है साबुन से धो, कोई बोलता है सोडा बाइकार्ब डाल के धो, and people are saying, some people say that you just put it under running water. So I mean, one can try several things. As far as I can say from on my own experience, what I follow, that we get the things from outside, we wash them under the running water, put it in the water for quite some time, then wipe, let it dry, and put inside. Even for the leafy vegetables, once we get, we do the same way: wash, dry, and then keep it. Although this is not, I mean, the doctor would be able to tell this answer in a better way. I am not the right person to give the answer, but I can say from my own experience.
They must have understood from your presentation that madam is a storehouse of all information. शायद उन्होंने सोचा होगा.
Perfectly all right. I could share from my own experience and my own, whatever I could see on the media. I have
And,
shared that.
Also, one participant wanted to know, how genuine are the online classes or virtual classes? Are they genuine? This is a doubt of one participant. I don't know from the part of the teacher or from the student what his doubt is. I do not know. This is the question that the person has asked. How genuine are they?
Let me accept that I have no idea of online classes, because neither I have organized nor my child has taken it up. So I'm not very sure of that. So I would not be able to give a good answer for that.
From what I have observed, madam, for this point, I will just share a little bit. Online classes are quite genuine. It depends on जितना interest हम डालते हैं, वो class interesting होगा.
Right.
Because the presenter will make all effort. जैसे कि आज आपने इतना interesting session दिए हैं. It's so nice, really, madam. Very comprehensive information you have given. अगर हम पूरा सुनेंगे, तो उससे हमको कुछ लाभ होगा. अगर if we do not listen and if we do not pay attention, you invest, then you get the returns also. So maybe we can put it that way. Yes.
I totally agree with you, because not for this, but other classes also, there are so many classes on YouTube, and throughout the year we do observe. But the class, I mean the presenter is really taking pains and giving authentic information. It is on the learner how one can take it and how much authenticity. of course, we have to see that from where the information is being transferred. What is the source of information that the information is given? The source of information should be authentic. That should be verified.
Then one participant wanted to know how the migrant labor, regarding the migrant labors, madam, this has been a very big item
Issue.
of political debates also.
Right.
You have seen on news channels also. So what could have been done with reference to the migrant labor, maybe to prevent their hardships, how the situation could have been handled? I know it's a politically sensitive question.
Right. So it would be better that we avoid it. The education people should avoid this kind of a question. This is a policy issue. So I don't think we should remark, give any remark over it. That's a policy issue.
I can understand.
Political issue.
Hard to touch it. Then also there is a question, madam, how the philosophy of the family has been affected by the pandemic. What do you see as a change with reference to the philosophy of the family, how it has been affected by the pandemic?
If we see philosophy of the family, the each one or each family has its own way of thinking, believing, having attitude towards the family members. So again, that has been affected, and people have started having looking at the philosophy in a different way. I should say they are becoming more cohesive. They are coming close to each other. This period has given time for them to understand each other, and they have learned a new way of living, as far as I can make out. There may be exceptions. This is, I mean, I should say, I should make myself very clear that my thoughts, whatever I have shared here, they are totally based on my observation. There are no empirical evidences gathered for this.
Then one more question, madam. A participant says, because of this pandemic, maybe the mad rush for globalization may slow down and focus may again shift to traditional and low-cost solutions and Indian customs and belief systems and so on. So how can we promote this through our education channels? How can we do this? This is one question.
Very, very nice question and very thoughtful thing for each and every academician, that how we can promote this, make it more profession oriented. Our students or with whomsoever we are dealing with, they should be made proficient to deal with produce at a lower level, I mean at the household level or a small level or small scale. We should be giving them the skills, and the curriculum should be oriented for that. We should make special efforts for developing those kind of skills where they can have their self employment, and the motto of Atmanirbharta can be done.
Yes, madam. Atmanirbharta ke baat se, I am reminded of our Prime Minister's slogan, Atmanirbharta. That's what he has been stressing in the, I think the fourth lockdown period. He was stressing on this. Then there is an interesting question from Rachana, madam. She says, how do we teach resource management for children? How to teach resource management to
Children,
children?
children of which age? Resource management is being taught to them in, if you see the curriculum very nicely, then at different levels the resource management has been introduced to them. They are given the concept of money, how to calculate money, and as I see my grandson's books and then things, so these things are included in the curriculum. Apart from that, we can give them the exercises, small assignments. Assignments, that means work should be given. Itna paisa leke jao, go to the market, buy the things. Or if we are taking the child with you, then ask him to handle the money, ask him to take back the money, then ask him to work in the home, as I have given the example, that participate in the household decisions, work, all those things should be taught to them. They should be given opportunity to participate in the household work.
I'm reminded in this context, madam, as you are talking, there is a post in the Facebook also, in the social media, saying that children should be taught resource management. Again, it should come back to schools, in all schools. Because जैसे आप बोल रहे वो, I think it is there in the CBSE board. And maybe certain state boards have home science curriculum compulsory for all the children. And maybe there they are being taught. But now it seems like, with children being at home and observing mother and learning to do certain jobs along with the mother, once the COVID is over, then maybe again parents will say only padhai and no ghar ka kaam. So maybe we can introduce the basics of home science curriculum in schools and make it compulsory for boys and girls also, so that they learn certain basic life skills,
Right.
which are essential for them throughout. So maybe some such change could be recommended by academicians like you, senior academicians like you, to the respective state boards, or to maybe CBSE board, or to the central government.
I
Thank
think
you.
some of the things are being taught to them, that how to do. I'm reminded of my when my son was in school. I'm talking of 87, 80, 88, 89 or so. At that time, they had a common class of stitching. They were asked to make a purse having cross stitch and all. So by that way, they were taught, or they learned how to handle the needle and thread. And now he is able to say कि मैं बटन लगा लूंगा, आपको लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है. So that kind of a training, the fundamental training, was given to them at that time in the school. So that should be enhanced. And the mothers also should पढ़ो, पर पढ़ने के बाद में one should ask the child to help in the household work. Not only child, the husbands also, and all other family members also. This pattern should be continued.
Yes. So post-COVID also, whatever changes have come about in the lifestyle at home, so if they are continued, then there will be peace.
I don't know. Peace may be in individual families look out, but yes, this is going to definitely have a different way of living and way of thinking in the family. The quality of life and lifestyle, what we are talking about, that is definitely going to change with this kind of an attitude and work pattern.
Yes. Yes. So I think that's it, madam. We have almost handled all the questions that have come in the question and answer box. So on behalf of the management of St. Joseph's College for Women Autonomous, the Department of Home Science, and the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, I deem it a privilege to express my deep sense of gratitude and thanks to Professor Manisha Shukl. Madam has agreed readily when I approached her with the idea of the webinar, and I asked her to speak about impact of COVID on the quality of life. It's always a pleasure to hear Madam's lecture, and I'm sure all the participants will agree with me. No wonder she is a very popular teacher in MS University, Baroda. She is very approachable, highly knowledgeable, and ready to guide and advise youngsters in all their scholastic endeavors. Thank you once again, madam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now, dear participants, we sign off for today. Tomorrow, the session begins at 2 o'clock. Please remember to log in 15 minutes before and mute your audio and video. Please remember all the guidelines which have been given to you in the messages and mails that we have sent you. And be in time so that you don't miss the very interesting sessions. So see you tomorrow. Thank you. Now, many participants have been asking about the feedback forms. The feedback format will be put up for you tomorrow. During the 4th session, the feedback form will be uploaded and you may answer it immediately. There itself, we have the link for the certificates also. So the feedback will be given tomorrow. So for today, we sign off with this. Thank you and good day. We will wind up with the national anthem. Oh my God. Correct. 4 o'clock.